Now, I'm going to switch here a little bit, and the question is, do people ever get sick from this? And the answer to that is yes, but it's very uncommon. And there are two areas that we're going to just touch on. One is there's cyanotoxins that were in the kidney dialysis fluid in South America, and the suspicion of neurologic degenerative diseases in areas that are not where we live. And then, of course, if it happens to you, it's serious, and we understand that. So this is a famous incident, and people run across this, and so I think it's worth talking about. This happened in Brazil in 1996. There were 131 patients were exposed to dialysis fluid that had been contaminated with cyanobacteria toxins. And after this exposure, 58% of these people died of acute liver failure. Now, the toxins were at 20 times what's considered to be a safe level, and they had a 3.5-hour exposure of this material intravenously. So you can imagine that that's not the sort of thing that would typically happen to a human. There's one other time that I've seen a report that where people were exposed to this, but it was recognized right away, and dialysis stopped, and nobody died. And now, of course, people test for this all the time, so that's not likely to happen. But it does show that there's no question that humans can get very sick and die from cyanotoxins, but this is the only time people have died from something like this. This is just a quick diagram for people to understand. In the dialysis machine, the patient's blood is pumped along, and the machine fluid is pumped opposite in a space where there's a semi-permeable membrane, because the patient's blood needs to get rid of the potassium. Unfortunately, in this circumstance, the toxins are shown as little stars here, can go through the semi-permeable membrane into the patient, and that's how this occurred. It's a very unfortunate event. And so if you get enough of this stuff intravenously, it can kill you. So, you know, they're very much alerted to this sort of problem. That's not likely to happen again. The second one I want to touch on that people talk about is this chronic neurologic diseases and other chronic things. And this happens around where cyanotoxins are growing in underwater as they grow and get the sun shining on them. They produce these toxins that I've shown as little dragons here, and they also produce a protein or a chemical that is like an amino acid, but not, that's referred to as BAMA, and it gets incorporated into proteins that are being made, and that can be collected in people's brains, and this has been seen in the brains of people in Canada. This is again along the shore, and in Guam, where everybody's near the shore that lives in Guam. And so with these chronic exposures, and these can occur here where they've even seen it in people that don't live right near the water. So again, the toxins and these molecules get up, they get in a bubble, the wind blows them to distant people, and they can breathe them in. And then there's another concern about chronic cyanotoxin ingestion as a cause of liver cancer in China and the Middle East. That's not here. And that's a phenomena where the little fish eat the teeny fish, and then the bigger fish eat them, and then the humans eat those fish, and you can get chronic exposure to the toxins that way. And some people think that may be a cause of chronic cancers. It's a little hard to know about these things because you don't get samples of these people ahead of time and then see what happens to them. Particularly for the ones that cause neurologic disease, you're not going to get multiple brain biopsies from somebody. So we really don't know whether these are specific causes or they're just happen to these people. There's probably some hereditary susceptibility for some of these diseases. And it's not likely that anybody in upstate New York is going to get this, but you may read about it, and I think the concern is real, and the biology is something that we think about, but not likely to happen here. So I just put this slide in. You know, we really are talking about microcystin in here, but if you get enough of this material ingested into an individual, it can affect all the organs in your body because it can get into the bloodstream. One of the things that uh, happens is that it interferes with the uh, lining of the tissues. And so, in that way, it can affect any organs. There are specific neurotoxins that can affect the brain, uh, but we're not going to really touch any more on that today. And then we already talked about dogs.